Ohio State's defense isn't just playing to win, they're playing to silence the doubters.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Thursday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we'll discuss if the players enjoy playing at noon, as well as if Ohio State might throw some different wrinkles out there on defense, as well as one thing that is very clear about Ohio State's defense right now. They're not just playing to win, they're playing to silence the doubters, and they're doing it with a chip on their shoulder, and that's something that we see every time they're out there on the field. It kind of started a few weeks ago. I don't mean to pick a scab that's still hurting you a little bit, but that Oregon loss kind of shifted things for Ohio State's defense. Ryan Day said they re-engineered the defense in the middle of the season, which is almost unheard of. But it might be exactly what Ohio State needs right now, because to that point, Buckeyes are tested a little bit, kind of got exposed in a few areas, but then Oregon kind of said, oh, we can run at you, we can throw at you, we're going to pick on a guy that doesn't normally get picked on, and it was not a good day for the Buckeyes defense. But ever since then, we're going to look at some numbers later on, the Buckeyes defense is playing faster, angrier, with relentless pursuit. One man called it reckless abandon. Whatever you want to call it, that's what we're seeing from Ohio State's defense. And that's what you want to see from this defense right now, as November is for contenders and national championship winning teams. Their defenses play at a level that is so good, that sometimes is elite, that other teams aren't able to move the ball against. And that's what you want right now from Ohio State. You want the defense right now in Columbus to be playing so well that when you go on the road to Wrigley Field to play against Northwestern, or when you come back home to play Indiana and Michigan, you're so confident in your skill set, it doesn't matter what the other team throws at you, you're able to shift on the fly or adjust on the fly to make sure that you are ahead of the game. And I think that's one thing Ohio State's able to do with their personnel, but also with their experience, but also with Jim Knowles. It's a luxury for any defensive coordinator to be able to re-engineer things in the middle of the season, to implement things that you have not implemented at all while you've been at that school, and the things to go fairly smoothly while doing it. Now, I know behind closed doors, there have been some conversations that were a little heated. They needed to be. I mean, after that loss, you need to have conversations with each other, and maybe it's a come to Jesus meeting. I don't know. But you need to kind of say, man, look, what are we doing? What's going on? Why are things going wrong? And you kind of got to figure out what the cause is or why. Figure out the why of the issue. And then once you know the why, you're able to go out and fix the issue. Well, I think Ohio State figured out the why. And ever since that game, the numbers kind of speak in volumes to what Ohio State's defense has done. Since that loss to Oregon, they have not allowed a team to throw over 152 passing yards in a game. In a game. They have not allowed over 121 rushing yards in a game. No team has averaged over 4 yards a carry in a game. No team has had a completion percentage higher than 63.6% in a game. Think about how good that is. If you're Ohio State's defense, and you know you got Dylan Raiola, you got Drew Aller, you got Hudson Card. I know Purdue's trash, but Hudson Card did some good things down there in Texas. You know you got quarterbacks that can do some things against you. They weren't able to do anything. Now, Hudson Card moved a little bit with his legs, and he was escaping a little bit. But realistically, when you look at just those numbers, those passing numbers, you're doing a lot of things right. And if there are people out there that are trying to doubt Ohio State's defense, saying, what we saw against Oregon is exactly what that defense is early in the year, maybe they're a little bit more fool's gold. That's not true. We're going to see a little bit more of that defense that's not fool's gold this Saturday against Northwestern, the following weekend against Indiana. That's a real test. Just like Oregon was a real test and Penn State was a real test, the Indiana Hoosiers is a real test, and everyone's going to see as the Buckeyes are playing with a chip on their shoulder, they're playing to silence the doubters, and they're going to silence those doubters that day. I have no question in my mind that Ohio State's defense is going to rise up to the occasion and play good ball that day and prove to everybody they're not fool's gold. They are the real deal, and this is the kind of defense the Buckeyes need if they want to win a national championship this year. Yeah, the good defense is play with a chip on their shoulder. I mean, Michael Jordan, many of us saw The Last Dance. Michael Jordan pulled out some stuff that wasn't even real and turned it into reasons for him to have a chip on his shoulder. Man, oh boy, on the Wizards, I don't even know who his name is. I know that he did something Michael Jordan did to kind of get an edge and say, oh, he did X, Y, or Z. I don't know what it is, but it worked for Michael Jordan. You've played sports, maybe somebody in your job, maybe you're in sales. I remember when I was selling cars, and people would pull out just anything to try to get an edge. Man, I want to get this hat trick. Man, I want that bonus. Man, I want to make sure I make my car payment. Real conversations I've heard people say while up there selling cars. Hey, man, whatever you got to do legally, nothing illegal now. Whatever you got to do legally to get that edge, go ahead and do it. And Ohio State's defense is not only led by Jordan Hancock, which is where this thought came from via his media availability just a day ago, but also with Caleb Downs, Lathan Ransom, and really all of these vets, all these dudes out there on the defense that are leading this thing, that are saying, get behind me. But wait, you got to get behind a lot of guys because everybody's going with the same mission. They have the same mindset. What do we have to do to approach this game with the right mindset? What's the game plan for us to take down this opponent? Now, Northwestern is not a good team, but they got some good players. So this is one of those weekends where Ohio State is probably going to blow out their opponent. I actually have no doubt that Ohio State is going to blow out Northwestern this weekend. But their quarterback, I think it's Jake Losh, I think is how you say his name. He is a guy that can do some things with his legs. A week ago, Hudson Card is not the type of runner or mover that Jake Losh is, but Hudson Card was able to get outside and get some positive yards with his legs. So it's a different test this weekend with the quarterback. Then they have some receivers and good guys out there on offense and defensively. You know Northwestern, they're going to be very, very fundamentally sound, just like an Iowa team, just not as talented. You're going to get a lot of things coming at you for the Ohio State defense. Don't go into this game and say, oh, it's Northwestern. It's in a baseball stadium. There's a bullpen instead of a traditional locker room we're going to be in halftime, whatever it is. Don't let those circumstances derail you from the task at hand. And the task at hand is to continue to silence the doubters. People have been saying all year, man, Ohio State's fool's gold, Ohio State this, Ohio State that. Before, they ain't played nobody. Then when they played Oregon, see what happens when they play a real team? Oh, wait, people try to downplay that Penn State game because Penn State always loses to big teams. Do what you got to do, man. Do what you got to do to make yourself feel better. But I will say this. What will make you feel better is to realize and acknowledge that this defense is real. 100%. The linebacker play that was once a big question mark for Ohio State is becoming a strong positive because Cody Simon and Sonny Styles are proving they can be the two linebackers out there in the 4-2-5 for Ohio State, and they'll consistently get that job done. One thing that would help Ohio State get the job done is making tweaks on defense. Do they need to make more tweaks? I'll answer that question next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. All the action goes down in two places, on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch, and to make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more, and the best service in Central Ohio. Now is the time to reserve a table so you can unwrap years of family fun on Christmas morning. Everything you need for in-home and even backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. They are family owned and operated, and when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. One thing we know about Ohio State's defense is that they're playing angry, they're playing fast, they've re-engineered some things, but we're always looking to find ways for Ohio State's defense to get better. May it be changes on the defensive line, may it be a little bit more 4-3 versus a 4-2-5, whatever it is, we're always finding ways to make Ohio State's defense better. And instead of going up front to the defensive line, we've done that a lot, especially with the Rushman package. If you kind of beat that thing a little bit too much at times, let's go to the secondary. Because I'm starting to wonder if there is a tweak that they can make with the secondary that also impacts one linebacker that'll help Ohio State hit on all cylinders consistently. Right now, the starters in the secondary, and I'm putting Hancock in the corner situation. Outside corners are Igmanos and Burke. Secondary is Ransom and Downs, and you got Hancock at the nickel. It wouldn't shock me if Igmanos continues to get pass interference calls because he generally gets one a game, or if teams keep trying to pick on Denzel Burke, if Ohio State says, Jermaine Matthews, in certain situations, you're going to come on the field. Off the field goes Denzel Burke. Not Denzel Burke, excuse me. Off the field goes Igmanos. I think you're not going to pull Burke. But if Igmanos keeps getting these penalties, those things can be costly and really hurt you in bad situations at bad times. So in comes Jermaine Matthews Jr. Or, here's what I think is more likely. Hancock goes from nickel and he places either one of the corners. My guess is Igmanos goes off the field. Burke stays on. Hancock goes out to the outside corner. Then you can move Sonny Styles to nickel and bring in Arvell Reese, or keep Sonny Styles at linebacker and bring in Lorenzo Styles. I'm not sure which one it is, but whatever it is, you're not taking Hancock off the field. You either keep him at the nickel or move him to outside corner. And he even talked about versatility and how, for him, that was something that was really appealing to him during his recruiting process. He also said playing safety was easy. Going back to safety was easy because that's what he did when he was in Little League. So that's one thing. You got a guy who can play nickel, but he's very comfortable playing safety as well because that's what he grew up. That's what he cut his teeth playing this sport at that position. But also, one thing we know about Jordan Hancock, as we get closer to the NFL draft, I know it's a few months away, we're going to hear about, man, he can play safety. He can play outside and inside corner. He is so versatile. We want the guy on our team. He's on Ohio State's team. That's the luxury Ohio State has. Your nickel might truly be your second best outside corner. Realistically, I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. Jordan Hancock might be the second best outside corner Ohio State has right now, but due to necessity and him being so good at that nickel spot, you kind of got to put him there and ride with Igmanos. I don't know how likely Ryan Day or Chip Kelly, or Jim Knowles is going to be to ride with IGB if these penalties keep happening week after week after week. I have lost count. I could look up how many penalties he's had so far this year. It's pretty high. I do know that it's pretty high. And so for when it comes to him, think about this rematch with Oregon. What's Oregon going to try and do? Get under his skin. They already tried spitting at him once in the first matchup. Now, that didn't work on that worked in his favor because, of course, I hope so, because the guy that spit in his face got kicked out of the game. So be it. I mean, if you're going to spit in somebody's face, which is one of the most disrespectful things you can do to a human being. You can do some very disrespectful things, but spitting in someone's face is almost the worst. There are choice words you can call certain people that when you say those words to them, it's one of the worst things you can say. And I've been in a situation where someone said a specific word that hit me in a certain way, and I did the Igman Olsen route. Not sure why, because, buddy, my blood was boiling. I felt myself getting hot. But I took the Igman Olsen high road at that moment. I didn't want to. I didn't want to at all. I wanted to do some things. But I kind of just stayed back, kept my cool, and did those things there. I don't know how we got on that topic. I really don't. My mind's just racing sometimes. But one thing Ohio State might need to do is race to get Igman Olsen off the field. I had to try to tie that in at some point, some way, and it worked out. They can't afford these penalties, man. Against Indiana, that might hurt you. That could not say it's going to cost you the game, but the time of that could be very costly. Against Michigan, it could happen. It might. You're still going to be Michigan. Michigan's bad, man. Now, the one way Michigan can beat Ohio State is they already got the psychological advantage. So you think. They got the psychological advantage over Ohio State. Everything I see out there right now was saying that what's going on in Ann Arbor is a nightmare, a literal nightmare that nobody wants to be a part of because things aren't going well. There's more, I forget the coach's name at Central Michigan where Stiles is on the sidelines. They're investigating him, that specific coach, not even not adding it to the stuff with Michigan already going on with sign stealing. So there's a lot of things going on in the state of Michigan, in Ann Arbor, that are just ugly, man. It's just ugly. And so when it comes to that game, the psychological advantage is the one thing Michigan has over Ohio State. I wouldn't say they're more physical. They got really good players. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're more physical. I don't even think they got a good quarterback that can actually try to do some things good to beat them. And Donovan Edwards, I'm still trying to figure out how he got on the cover. One of the main cover athletes of the new video game. Because, buddy, let me tell you, what we got from that man this year has not been hot. It's not been hot at all. So for that game specifically, I'm not giving a score prediction yet. It's a few weeks away. I am very excited about Ohio State's chance to win that game. But even if they make these tweaks or not, I don't think it's really going to be the outcome, the deciding factor in the game. Ohio State should blow them out. Ohio State should blow Northwestern out. And the Indiana game, Ohio State should win. I have no thought of Ohio State potentially losing, even with some of the things that Curtis Rourke and Elijah Surratt and some of those receivers at IU do well. Ohio State should win. A good way for them to win that game is to make some tweaks. I think it would be great to see Jordan Hancock at outside corner. I think the decision is going to be in, do you put in Lorenzo Styles? Do you bring in Orville Reese and bump Sonny Styles a little bit further outside, get him outside the box? What do you do? That's the question. Because I think if one corner goes off the field, it's Igman Olsen, Hancock goes outside, and the defense might actually be better. I'm going to say it there. I had to say it a little bit softer because I don't want people to get our secret out there. I don't want people to know what we're talking about here. Just being a little sarcastic. I will not be sarcastic, though, about the players' thoughts about playing games at noon, because some of their thoughts and the unity in their opinion might actually surprise you. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, on top of the fun luxury that the Game Time Picks allows you to have while buying tickets. Game Time is still going to allow you to have your all-in pricing, get a panoramic view from your seat, the lowest price guarantee, and even provide the game time ticket coverage as well. And all of it is geared to help you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. One thing I enjoy about this week alone is that there are so many people talking about the kickoff times and Big Noon and how Joe Klatt, which is correct about Fox saw an avenue for them to dominate a specific window, and they have done that. But then Ohio State's on the short end of the stick because they're playing a lot of early kickoffs, noon games, and Nebraska could have easily been a 3:30 game. Penn State should have been a night game no matter where the game is played. Why? Because of Big Noon. Well, Big Noon's a contractual thing between the Big Ten and some other TV networks. But what do the players think about playing these games at noon? That's very, very important to me, is what the players and the coaches think about playing in that first window on a college football Saturday. Carnell Tate didn't hold back. He said, we love it. We like to play noon games. We like to wake up and go straight to the field and play. The earlier the game is, the more time you've got on the back end of your day. And he's right, man. Like, one thing recently, which I was always, when I was about 5-10 years ago, give me all them night games. All of them. About 10 years ago, I was living in Arkansas, and I still remember where I was when Eminem was up in the booth with Brent Musburger and Kirk Herbstreit. And I think it was Herbstreit that jumped that day. I forget exactly who it was, but Eminem was up there in the booth. And I remember that vividly. I used to love night games. I still love them. But that was what I grew up in the sport where ABC dominated, man. Like, ABC's broadcast to me is still one of the best in the sport. It's really close to CBS and NBC. Don't get me wrong. CBS I got a lot of respect for. I told Noah Eagle that their broadcast at NBC has a very NFL-like feel, which I really, really enjoy. But man, a noon game now I got a family and I'm married now because most of my life, man, look, I'm here for it. Get that noon game in, do some show stuff afterward, after the game's over. You got the rest of the day. And I understand where Carnell Tate's coming from. Some other players spoke on this. Jelani Thurman, he said, I don't mind 12. We get in, get out, have a good game, get to lay on the couch after that and watch the games. It's all about getting it in early, all of a sudden being able to just watch other games. Will Howard, he spoke on this too. There's something I kind of like about just getting up and going. There's less thinking involved. And he kind of went on a little bit about sitting in the hotel. For me, I just get antsy. I'm like, man, I just want to go. I'm not going to keep reading more of what he said, but he is correct. Think about you when you were in school. You had a big test, and it was in your last period of the day. No matter if you had block scheduling or if you had 7 or 8 periods in a day. You know that test, man, it's a big test. And you've been studying for it, but all of a sudden, you got to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And you're like, man, what time is it? Man, it's only 1:30. When the test at? It's at 2. Man, I got to wait 30 more minutes. Man, I got to wait and wait and wait. And sometimes you get a little bit antsy. I remember my wedding day. Had to change the venue because of rain. We're supposed to do it outside, but then we had to move it inside. We were lucky that we had the space in the clubhouse of my wife's apartment at the time, rented it out all day. So we moved it in there. Very, very small wedding crowd that day. Didn't really have a lot of people there. Wanted to keep it small with mainly family and a few close friends. And I remember, man, the night before, I'm cool. And then that day, it's like, oh, it's raining. Let's move it inside. Started to get a little antsy. Literally sat down on the couch and started playing NCAA 14. And I was on cloud 9, man. I really enjoyed that. It was a great little appetizer for the wedding. But then that wedding came, and our wedding was at 11 a.m. It was early in the day, 10 or 11, one of the two. It was pretty early. But man, let me tell you, as it got to 10:30 and then 10:40 and 10:45, I got more antsy. I got antsier. And next thing you know, my dad did the ceremony. It started. A few minutes later, it was over. Legit, it was a very, very, very short wedding. Literally had someone that was there that I've known for quite a long time, came to me afterwards and said, "Hey, can your dad do my wedding? I like how short it was." No joke. That was a legit conversation I had after the wedding. Now imagine if the wedding was at 3, or if it was at 4, if we were at 5. I know some of you may have had weddings later in the day or maybe even in the evening. You get antsy, man. Like you. I can only imagine if my wedding was at 1, if I had more people at my wedding, but 2, if my wedding was at 3 versus in the morning, dog, man, I would be a hot mess, an absolute hot mess. So I absolutely understand where Will Howard is coming from. There's other players that spoke as well on this. Sonny Styles said, "I just show up. Honestly, I don't really matter. It doesn't really matter to me what time the game is. I mean, it's just true guy, a true gamer." Ryan Day and Chip Kelly chimed in on this too. Players, man, they enjoy noon kickoffs. I understand it. I understand why they do, but the pushback to me still goes to Fox. And I think I'm going to pull this up quickly and then close up shop, that Fox's big noon game this weekend, as Joel Klatt said, which he probably should not have said in the way that he did, because it kind of makes him look a little bit odd when he said it, because this week's big noon game for Fox, it's a home game for Colorado. It's kicking off at 12 noon, and the game is 10 a.m. local. Why would you do that to these kids? No, it's not Fox. Of course, I believe Big 12, and I know it's some contractual things. Why? Like, y'all could have flexed that thing out. I know for a fact they have had Iowa and Iowa State as their big noon pregame and put that game at 4. USC, UCLA, put that game in. I know they have done some things around to move some things around just for time's sake, for time zones. Y'all could have done it this weekend. Y'all could have changed some stuff. Trust me. And I know part of me wonders, man, did Fox want that game at Wrigley Field? Maybe for the venue, but Northwestern's bad. But y'all had Purdue last week, and I guarantee you there were bigger matchups, better match. Indiana, Michigan would have been better at 12 noon than Purdue and Ohio State. I get it, though. It's about brand recognition. Why is Colorado playing at 12 noon? It's not because of the school. They got Coach Prime, man. I don't even call him that. They got Deion Sanders. I don't know why I'm calling that man Coach Prime. It's Deion Sanders. I understand why they're doing it. Maybe y'all want to do it this weekend. I hope y'all don't do it again, because most of these guys have not played that early in a very long time. I know when I played that early, man, I was not about. I was a kid, man. I was in high school, man. I could get up and go at a speed that I can't get up and go right now. I get it. I completely understand. I get it, Joel. It's 10 a.m. local. Will it be a good game? Probably a little bit competitive. Colorado 7-2, Utah 4-5. That's a matchup. I get it. I understand it. It still is odd. Players like playing at noon. Fans would like something a little bit different. What side of the fence I'm going to ride on? With the fans, of course. Fix some stuff. Your biggest brand should not be playing at 12 noon Eastern. No. You shouldn't have Penn State, Ohio State at 12 noon Eastern, no matter what venue it's being played in. It shouldn't happen at all. And like we know with contracts, we see with the CFP contract, there are always ways to change them. So it wouldn't shock me if in the offseason, the ADs and presidents and chancellors got together with the bigwigs at these networks and altered the contract, because they can. Thank you for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes here on a Thursday and making it your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast, because my guy Craig Sheeman puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. If you want to follow me on other platforms, other social media sites, you can follow me on Threads at jstevens07 and on a new app, social media Twitter type app called Blue Sky. Just found it. Same handle at jstevens07. We'll be there talking ball over the next few days and then getting ready for a Buckeye basketball game Friday, Buckeye football Saturday. If you missed our bonus pod that came out yesterday ago about Ohio State's hot start on the basketball court, definitely go check that out. We'll be filtering in some extra shows talking about Diebler's boys throughout the basketball season. We're up out of here on a Thursday. Got to stop rambling, y'all. We'll see you next time.